When I was 17, my family moved 2 states away without telling me. They left a note that said, "You'll figure it out." 12 years later, after I finally built a life without them, they suddenly reached out wanting to reconnect. Hello everyone. Before we start, please subscribe our channel and help us reach our first 100 subscribers. Let's start the story. My name is Madison Harper. I'm 29 years old, and I learned what abandonment really felt like when I was 17. I came home from school carrying my backpack, opened the front door, and immediately knew something was wrong. The house was quiet, too quiet, no television, no music, no barking from our dog, no smell of dinner, just silence. At first, I thought my parents had gone shopping. Then I noticed the walls. The family photos were gone. The bookshelf was empty. The couch had disappeared. Even the curtains had been taken down. My heart started pounding. I ran upstairs. My bedroom door was open. Everything I owned was still there. My bed, my desk, my clothes, my school books, everything. Everything except my family. On the kitchen counter, a single folded piece of notebook paper waited beside my house key. I picked it up with shaking hands. It read, "Madison, we had to leave sooner than expected. Your aunt will check on you until you graduate. You're almost 18. You'll figure it out. Mom and Dad." I read it 5 times, then sat down on the kitchen floor. 12 years later, after building a life completely on my own, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I hadn't seen since I was 17. "Hi, sweetheart. We'd really like to reconnect." Looking back, that note wasn't the beginning of my story. It was simply the moment I stopped believing someone else was coming to save me. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. My parents weren't cruel, not openly. They were simply consumed. My younger twin brothers, Evan and Eli, were born with medical complications. For years, our lives revolved around doctor's appointments, therapy sessions, hospital visits, special schools. I never blamed my brothers. None of it was their fault. But slowly, I became the child who could manage. If my birthday fell on the same day as a hospital appointment, "We'll celebrate later." Later rarely came. If I earned straight A's, Mom smiled. "That's wonderful." Then immediately reminded me to watch my brothers while she made another phone call. Dad once told me, "We don't worry about you. You're strong." At 17, that sounded like a compliment. Later, I realized it meant something very different. It meant they assumed I'd survive anything, even being left behind. The truth came out piece by piece. Dad had accepted a job in another state, a better salary, better health insurance, a hospital that specialized in my brother's treatment. Everything happened quickly, too quickly. Instead of asking if I wanted to move during my senior year, they made the decision for me. Without me, my Aunt Carol arrived the morning after I found the note. She hugged me so tightly I couldn't breathe. "I'm so sorry. You knew." She nodded. "I begged them to tell you themselves." "They wouldn't." "Why?" "They thought saying goodbye would make leaving harder." I laughed bitterly. For them, she couldn't answer. Aunt Carol wasn't wealthy. She rented a small apartment, worked 2 jobs. She couldn't legally become my guardian overnight. Instead, she helped me stay in the house until graduation, while lawyers and social workers handled the paperwork. Every weekend, she brought groceries, paid what she could, and reminded me I wasn't alone. I worked evenings at a grocery store, weekends at a local diner, finished homework after midnight, graduated with honors. Nobody from my immediate family attended. Aunt Carol cheered loud enough for all of them. When my name was called, she stood up, clapped, and cried. I still remember looking into the audience. For one impossible second, I thought maybe my parents had changed their minds. They hadn't. After graduation, I earned scholarships, worked through college, shared tiny apartments, lived on instant noodles and determination. Somehow, I graduated with a degree in civil engineering. My first paycheck felt unreal, not because of the money, because I'd earned it completely on my own. Years passed. Promotion followed promotion. Eventually, I became a project manager, bought a modest house, adopted an elderly golden retriever named Charlie, built a peaceful life, not a perfect one, but one that belonged entirely to me. Every birthday, every holiday, every promotion passed without a phone call from my parents. Eventually, their silence became normal, until one Tuesday morning, I was drinking coffee before work. Charlie slept beside the back door. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Instead, I opened the message. "Hi, sweetheart. This is Mom. We know it's been a long time. Your father and I would really love the chance to reconnect. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen. My coffee had gone cold. Charlie lifted his head and looked at me, as if he somehow knew something had changed. A second message arrived. "Your brothers would love to see you too." Then a third. Please don't ignore us. For 12 years, nothing, not one birthday, not one Christmas, not one graduation, not one phone call. Now, 3 messages before breakfast. I set the phone down, walked to the kitchen window, and looked out across my quiet backyard. For the first time in years, the past had found my address. That evening, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't my mother. It was my Aunt Carol. Before I could say hello, she quietly asked, "They contacted you, didn't they?" My heart skipped. "How did you know?" There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "Because they called me first. And what they told me made me very afraid for you. Sometimes, people don't come back because they've suddenly remembered how much they love you. Sometimes, they come back because life has changed, and so have the reasons they need you." As Aunt Carol's voice trembled on the other end of the phone, I realized my family's silence hadn't really ended. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to ask for something. I gripped my phone tighter. "What do you mean?" "You're afraid for me." Aunt Carol sighed. "They didn't call because they suddenly missed you." My heart sank. "What did they say?" She hesitated. "They asked if I'd help convince you to forgive them." "Why?" Another long silence. Then she quietly answered, "Your father's health has declined. And your brothers? They're struggling." I closed my eyes. Not because I wasn't sorry, because I knew what was coming next. They need help. Yes, they believe. You're the only one who can provide it. The words hurt, not because they surprised me, because they didn't. That evening, my mother called again. This time, I answered. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally, she whispered, "Madison." "Yes." Her voice cracked. "I've missed you." I looked around my quiet living room, at Charlie sleeping on the rug, at the photographs on the wall, every milestone of the last 12 years. Without her, I answered honestly, "I missed you too." She began crying. "We made terrible mistakes." I quietly replied, "Leaving wasn't the biggest mistake." The silence afterward was. She couldn't argue, because she knew it was true. She asked softly, "Would you meet us?" After a long pause, "I'll meet you, but not at your house." We agreed on a small cafe, halfway between our cities. Saturday morning arrived. I almost turned around twice. Instead, I walked inside. My parents were already there. They looked older, smaller somehow. Dad stood immediately. For a moment, it looked like he wanted to hug me. Instead, he quietly said, "You've grown into an incredible woman." I smiled politely. "You missed most of it." His shoulders dropped. "I know." Mom reached for my hand, then stopped, unsure whether she had the right. "I've wanted to call so many times." I asked quietly, "What stopped you?" Neither answered. Finally, Dad admitted, "Shame." We kept telling ourselves we'd call tomorrow. Then another year passed. And another. Mom wiped away tears. The longer we waited, the harder it became. I nodded. "I understand that. But understanding isn't the same as accepting it." No one spoke. Finally, Dad took a deep breath. "The truth is, or I'm sick. I have heart failure. I'm on the transplant list. I'm sorry, I truly am." He looked relieved by my compassion, then continued, "Evan and Eli still need a lot of support. They've done wonderfully in many ways. But life has been difficult." "I know. We were hoping." He couldn't finish. Mom quietly whispered, "We hoped maybe you could help." There it was, the reason, not hidden, not dramatic, simply honest. I looked at them calmly. "I'll help my brothers if they ask me. They're my brothers. I've never stopped loving them." Hope filled Mom's face. "But," so I continued, "I won't become the daughter you remember, the one who quietly gave up everything." Silence. "I have my own life now, my own responsibilities, my own family." Dad looked confused. "You have children?" I smiled. "No." I looked down beside my chair. Charlie rested his head against my leg. Then I smiled again. "I have a home, friends, a career, people who stayed. I won't abandon them." Dad slowly nodded. "You shouldn't." Just then, the cafe door opened. 2 men walked inside. I recognized them immediately, even after 12 years. Evan and Eli. They looked nervous. One of them quietly asked, "Madison?" I stood. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then both of my brothers hugged me at the same time. "I've wanted to meet you again for years. I thought you hated us." I pulled back. "I never hated either of you." Evan frowned. "We only recently learned about the note." My heart skipped. "What?" Dad buried his face in his hands. Mom started crying again. Eli quietly explained, "They always told us, you moved away because you wanted your own life." I stared at my parents. "You told them that?" Mom whispered. We didn't know how to explain what we'd done. I slowly reached into my purse. Inside, still folded after 12 years, was the original note. "You'll figure it out." I placed it on the table. Neither brother spoke. Evan read it once, then again. His hands started shaking. "You left her. Are alone." Dad couldn't lift his head. "Yes." Eli quietly wiped away tears. "I would have come back." "I know. I was 8. I know." Neither brother defended our parents. Neither blamed me. Instead, Evan quietly reached across the table. "If you'll let us, we'd like to know our sister." For the first time that day, I smiled. "I'd like that too." Epilogue. Soft piano becomes warm and hopeful, carrying the peace that comes when forgiveness is offered with wisdom instead of forgetting. 3 years have passed. Dad eventually received a successful heart transplant. He's recovering well. Mom volunteers with organizations that support teenagers leaving unstable homes. She says it's the closest thing she'll ever have to making up for what happened. Maybe she's right. Maybe some mistakes can only be honored by helping someone else avoid them. Evan and Eli visit often, not because they're obligated, because we've finally become siblings instead of strangers. We celebrate birthdays together now, real birthdays, no empty chairs, no missing daughters. As for me, I never moved back. I never gave up the life I'd built. My parents had to earn a place in it, one honest conversation at a time. And somehow, that made every relationship stronger. Not because the past disappeared, because the truth finally had room to exist beside the future. My thoughts. Looking back, the note that said, "You'll figure it out," turned out to be right. I did figure it out. I figured out how to finish school, how to build a career, how to create a home, how to love people without losing myself. But the most important lesson took 12 years to learn. Forgiveness doesn't require pretending the past never happened. It simply means refusing to let the past decide every tomorrow. Sometimes, the strongest reunion isn't the one where everyone goes back to the way things were. It's the one where everyone finally becomes honest enough to build something better.